Hi everyone, and welcome to the Princeton Reviews webinar about It's Summer and ideas to keep you busy and productive. We want to make sure that you are ready to go for your college applications, and we hope that tonight's session will give you a list of really great ideas of things that you can look into working on for this summer. My name is Anna, and I am with our National Marketing Department, and I'll be joining in tonight to help with the session. And I just have two quick little housekeeping tips to let you know about tonight's session. Everyone is on mute, so there is no way for you to actually verbally speak to us. However, if there is a question or something you'd like to share, please go ahead and use it in the chat box, and we'll definitely try to get to your question as quickly as possible. Secondly, we are recording this session this evening, so don't feel the need to take notes, and that's totally fine. We'll be sharing this with you guys afterwards. And so I want to just take a few moments to pass this over to our presenter for this evening, our own in-house college consultant expert, Ms. Julia Moody.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone, depending on which coast you're on. I'm actually in Washington, D.C., so I'm on Eastern Time. I'm so happy that you're joining us. This summer preparation is critical. I've been working as a college consultant for the Princeton Review for a few years, and I have a long history in college counseling, primarily as an in-school counselor in admissions, and also work pro bono with financial aid. So something that is coming up on my desk constantly: what do I do over the summer? So first I'm going to cover why is summer important. These are our slides that are coming up. Some summer activity ideas, and then Anna will add how the Princeton Review can help you go through these summer plans. So let's go to summer. Okay, summer is a great time to begin college prep. And summer activities are really a key to personal, academic, and creative enrichment. Frequently, students think, oh, I have to take summer school, and that's what they equate to summer activities or college prep. This is not what we're talking about, a summer school class that you need to make up for your regular curriculum at school, or something that you want to add so you don't need to take a class. We're talking about personal, academic, and creative enrichment. This is the perfect time to start to build your activity list. Sophomores, I'm so glad you're here with us, because you are actually right on the cusp of your first important summer. And of course, juniors, key summer ahead of you, because you'll be applying to college after this summer. So I think this is a fantastic time for you to all be here. And freshmen who have joined us, this is a great summer for you to start sort of getting your feet wet and maybe take a few classes and see what you feel is right for you. But again, I cannot emphasize enough, it's important for you to start. These activities are a critical component of your college applications. Schools really want to see that you're committed to activities, and they may make you stand out from other applicants with similar scores, similar grades, similar classes. So say you have completed some great summer enrichment programs, and you're put side by side with a college applicant who has all the exact credentials, say even including the same essay, which of course will never happen, except for summer activities and activities in general. Guess who the college will choose? You. Because you are showing them that you're making the effort. We'll go over some of the activities, but you're making the effort to stand out and to expand and stretch yourself over the summer. Summer is also a great time to explore your career ideas. You may find within a summer camp or a summer program at a college, that your dream career is not really what you thought it would be. Maybe you want to be a doctor and you find out you're afraid of blood. I have a student who wanted to be an engineer, and she went to an engineering camp and hated every moment of it. So it's really a good time to explore, and if you do find the major that you want, you show your prospective schools that you're making an effort to get involved in those. So I'm going to share some ideas to get you off the sofa and into the world this summer. So our first idea is academic and education enrichment. I know it sounds like I already covered this, but I have many more details to hit. There are specialized student activities that are held in colleges all over the country. They may range from comprehensive summer programs in your area of interest. For example, MIT has a program called MIT Launch, where students create actual startup companies. Purdue has a great summer engineering program. UCLA has 1- and 2-week programs where students can come in and out based on their interest, and they have a wide variety of really interesting programs. And there's another program called the National Student Leadership Conference that is held all over the country and covers many, many activities. I'm in no way promoting this. I just want to let you know that these are out there. And I think it's really important that you know these programs are not required for college acceptance. They just enhance and expand your activity list, as I mentioned earlier. So another example of a summer activity would be taking a college program, a college class on a college campus. And we're talking a real college class taught by a professor, and these are extremely competitive, require applications, and for those of you who are interested, particularly in highly selective schools, start now. Fill out your application. You'll need recommendations. Get going now. All these applications are open. Another form of educational enrichment is, rather than just doing summer classes, to create something on your own and investigate an area of potentially research. Become what we would call a lab rat. Research is an awesome experience. Some of you may need to be a little older to get into research, and a great way to get into this type of job is now you need your parents. Ask them to talk to anyone and everyone who is connected to a university and would like you to come into their lab. It may not necessarily be a lab that covers your potential career choice, but being in a lab as a high school student is really impressive to colleges. Another kind of scary way to do this is to cold call professors, which means call them, introduce yourself, tell them where you are, say you're interested in studying engineering or biochemistry or neuroscience, and ask them if there's any help that they need at your lab. Don't mention being working with research necessarily. You may be in there cleaning slides. You just want to be in the lab. That will be an awesome way to go. Another means of enrichment is, we all hear about students going abroad, overseas, to different adventures. These are not necessary. They're very expensive, and a lot of kids have done them, so please don't feel compelled to do that type of activity. There are a number of free activities that you can look into. You can create your own activity with friends. You can create a college band and play at local venues or practice. You can there's some fabulous courses online from programs called edX, Coursera, and a number of others, all of which are listed in our resources. They're free. You can teach yourself how to program. You can teach yourself creative writing. These are all fantastic classes that are videotaped from the actual university. They're the real classes that the kids take from MIT, Stanford, Harvard, every university you can think of. And you actually participate in the class, either a class that's been given in the past and you you pretend that you're a student. They give you the homework, they give you everything. And some of them that are in real time, and you interact with other students online in a forum. So these are great because they're free. The only time they are not free is if you're looking to earn a certificate. They're typically $40, maybe $50 for a certificate. I don't think they're necessary. All that a certificate does is proves to a school that you have taken the class and what grade you've gotten. It's really, I think, on an honors basis that if you put these activities on your activity sheet when you're applying to college, no one's going to question them. And I think you're all going to be, extremely honest and not stretch your resume, which we know is terrible. Another way to really save cost, for those of you who don't have millions in the bank, is find a local either summer program at a community college, any of the summer programs we have mentioned, and instead of being an in-house student, which means you live in the dorms and you pay a lot of money for room and board, instead of that, find a place close to home and be a commuter student, which means you go there in the morning, spend the day doing the same activities as your classmates, but instead of staying at the school, you return home. That will save you and your parents a lot of money. And I really need to stress that anyone here who qualifies for financial aid or feels that these programs are too expensive, and a lot of them are very costly, I have to be honest, do not hesitate to ask for financial aid. I cannot stress that enough. Ask that from day one. Some of the applications will mention it. Before you get involved in an extremely complicated process, call the company or the school and say, do you offer financial aid? Find out. If you can't afford it, it's not for you. They may say we offer 100% aid, just send us some paperwork. Look into it. Do not be too proud, but do not get in over your head with the application only to find out you can't afford it. So please start, and I know I've already said this, now. These applications are out now. The programs are very, very competitive, and I'm talking about every age of student here. Go online. We have some resources at the end of this program that will give you a great way to find some summer programs. So, summer activity number 2, and I can feel you all cringing, is get a job. I already have some students, I've worked with students who have jobs, and I have to tell you that universities look really well upon students who have jobs. Sometimes they'll be working because their family needs the income. Other times they're working because it's fun, believe it or not, and to take up their summer. Other times they're working because they think it will look good on their college resume. Jobs show initiative and responsibility. It's really hard for those of you who have tried to get a job or already have one. It's tough, particularly for the younger students. Many of you are too young to work right now. Some of you, who I believe are 15 or 16, will need work permits, so it can get a little complicated. But the good news is many companies like Starbucks and Chipotle, they have online applications. So you go online, you complete the application, you choose the locations you're interested in, send it out. However, I do recommend that you follow up with your application. Give it, a week or so. Go into the Chipotle or Starbucks or whatever it is, ask for the manager, and introduce yourself. And say, I've sent an application in online. I just wanted to introduce myself and tell you how interested I am in working for you this summer. What you should not do, if they are slammed and there are 20 people in line and everyone is running around behind the counter, don't ask to see the manager then. Wait until it's a quieter time. Another thing you can do, these are summer jobs you can create with friends. You can organize a special service. I know that a lot of, I wouldn't say middle-aged people, but a lot of people in their 70s and up are not familiar with how to use computers. Something as simple as email, creating a Word document, going into Excel. those, I think you were all born with computers. And even, me at my somewhat advanced stage, I'm really comfortable. I use my computer. It's connected to me. But I can't tell you how many people are intimidated and don't know how to use them, and allowing them to communicate with their family, teaching them how to Skype would be an incredible service. This can be done as a community service, but you can also create a little business and, put flyers up, those little flyers you see with people's phone numbers. Create an interesting flyer, and I can tell you this really isn't offered anywhere. I've never seen it. So that's a great activity. Do it with friends, because I think anytime you work with friends, you're more comfortable and it offers more of a service. What jobs have students held over the summer or school year? We have some suggestions. The garage band seems to be a suggestion. Other students have sent in the idea of, what about building a home computer? Yes, that is a good idea. However, it's a solitary activity, and schools are really interested in seeing that you can work with a group. I am by no means saying do not build a computer, because that's an incredible accomplishment. But if you build a computer, then try and get a group together to use it, to then use it to create a website, and use the website for a community service, and then you're hitting two different things with one piece of work. But again, please try to avoid solitary activities, because schools really like to see that you're working as a team. And I have to say that that's in general. So use your imagination. You can definitely come up with jobs. It's easy for me to say, but I have 2 kids and they have done it as well. Activity number 3, very critical, community service. I cannot tell you how many times I hear students say, well, my school requires 40 hours and I've hit all 40, so I don't need to do any more community service. Wrong. I do not care about how many hours your school gives you. I actually want you to throw them out the window. What I care about, and what schools care about, is the continuity and the commitment you're showing to your community. There are great projects that a lot of different clubs, for example, Key Club, National Honor Society, do, and I'm by no means putting these clubs down, but they do what I call one-offs. They'll do an AIDS walk, they'll do a run for breast cancer, they'll do a fundraiser, and they're not connected, and there may be 10 hours here, 10 hours there. Well, those are one-offs. There's not continuity. So doing a community service activity where you start even with 2 hours a week, and you start now, whatever age you are, and continue that through, as long as you can, but start now, and if you continue through senior year, great. If you haven't started yet and you're a junior, still never too late to start. One of my favorite activities, and if students knew that I was suggesting it to all of them, they would totally roll their eyes at me. It's very easy. Nursing homes want young people. They want you in there to create the atmosphere of youth. A lot of people in nursing homes are really warehoused and have no one visiting them. Coming in, and I want to clarify that I'm not talking about rehab homes where people are ill and connected to machines. I'm talking about older, maybe retirement homes where they're active. Some of them are limited to wheelchairs, but you all know, you've seen in movies or have visited grandparents, you know what I'm talking about. Even if you go in to work with them on bingo night, I think Sunday afternoons are usually great because students don't really have activities Sunday afternoons. 2 hours a week should be enough. If you're a musician, play your violin, play your piano. If you can sing, sing. I've had some young students get together and create Beauty Day for the women in the nursing home and have painted their nails and painted their toes. And these women feel pampered and taken care of for the first time in I don't know how long. So please consider this as a really convenient, easy to get community service activity that you can start now and continue it through senior year. What schools see right through, and there's never anything wrong with doing community service, but what they see right through is you're going into your senior year and you go, oh no, I don't have any community service. What can I do? And you throw yourself into every possible little community service activity, whether it's, you know, selling cookies or cupcakes at school. Now again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just obvious in many cases, unless you have some extenuating circumstances, that you just realized that your activity list had a huge gap. And that's community service. Schools want to know that you are giving back, and that is done with community service. So let's move on. Activity number 4, internships and job shadowing. Hang on while I take a quick drink. Excuse me. So, a lot of students do not know the difference between an internship and job shadowing. I'm going to clarify that. There is a little overlap. An internship is technically something you will apply for at a specific company or lab. It will frequently be advertised, somewhat and sometimes extremely competitive, usually very structured. You'll spend a week doing this, a week doing that. It will be for a set period of time, and you'll probably be there with another, a group of interns. That is the traditional internship. There are, of course, non-traditional versions of that where you may be the only student and you may have arranged it through a parent. And I want you all to know that this is another time. Take advantage of what your parents do, of what their friends do, talk to their teachers, see if anyone has summer internship or, as we'll get to, job shadowing opportunities that you can take advantage of. But again, start now, because you need to really sow the seeds of those activities that won't start till June. So internships, typically formal, typically application, typically structured. Frequently, honestly, sadly, unpaid. Job shadowing. More casual in the sense that it's not as structured as an internship. Tough because you find it 99% of the time, you have to find it on your own. And you have to use a lot more initiative to really go out and talk to someone. Say you're interested in engineering, in electrical engineering, and your dad's best friend has an electrical engineering company. Job shadowing does not necessarily mean that you're going to follow. It's sort of a misnomer. You're not going to shadow the actual engineers. Sometimes you will, but sometimes you'll be in the way if you do that, and instead they'll ask you to be a gopher, and you'll answer phones, bring them lunch, bring them coffee. Don't worry about that. You'll still absorb the atmosphere of the office, and you'll still see and hear what the people do. So job shadowing is really a wonderful opportunity. I've had students who want to job shadow in hospitals. Really tough. Following a doctor around in an ER is really tough. However, another job shadowing component of medical hospitals is working in patient input and output. You know, you've all been to a hospital and seen patients taken to the door and helped into the car when they're checked out. You may roll your eyes and think, oh, that's just like a ridiculous activity, who cares? That's really what we call a high-touch position. You interact. It's critical that you interact with that patient. Sometimes they're going to be grumpy and don't want to talk to you, but you have that short period of time to see how their visit was, to see how they're feeling, to see who's picking them up. And to make that human contact. And that's something you can write about. A lot of these activities, my brain automatically goes to essays. And I can see an incredible essay of an older person in a wheelchair, which is, I know, stereotypical, whom a student took to the car. And that short, tiny bit of interaction can grow into a fantastic essay. Your essays, and I'm a little off topic, don't always have to be huge. Huge ideas. I don't like huge idea essays because I think you can't. They're just too much. Start with small ideas. Everything that I've spoken about, community service, internships, job shadowings, summer enrichment activities, are great essay ideas. The summer enrichment, it's always about your personal interaction and your personal growth. So, difference between job shadowing and internships, I'm going to repeat again because I know there's a lot of confusion. Internships you typically apply for are typically structured and scheduled. You frequently have to wear a coat and tie or a suit for the young ladies and have a week-to-week schedule, typically 99% of the time unpaid. Job shadowing, more casual. You may come in and out of an office, a couple of days a week. You may have a schedule and they may say, we don't need you today. Sorry, there's a helicopter going over my office. And it's just more casual. It's more difficult, or I have to say it's very difficult to get either of these opportunities. So you really have to be a go-getter. You have to use every contact you possibly have. So let's go to the next summer activity. Yay! Test prep. How many groans do I hear in the audience? It is never too early to start test prep. There are now PSATs offered in the fall, ACTs and SATs offered in the summer. I believe the first SAT this coming summer is August 23rd, which is unusually early. So for those of you who are ready to start test prep, summer's a great time. And I'm not talking about your whole summer. I'm talking about probably the month leading up, or depending on how much prep you need to do, the time leading up to the test. And it doesn't take up 100% of your time. So test prep can be done in a number of ways. The traditional way that you all know is you go to a class with a bunch of other kids at 10 o'clock in the morning every day. Someone's on the board, telling you what's on the test. You're taking notes, you have a book. That doesn't always work for people because you have conflicts and some people can't pay attention in that environment. I love online test prep. There are a number of versions. Some of them are self-motivated. You'll pay a certain fee to an organization, including possibly the Princeton Review, which, yes, I work for, but it's not the only one. And although it was rated #1 with Yelp. And there are different ways to do it. It can be working with modules and no tutor component. You can also purchase other programs that include modules on every component of the test and an hour or two with a tutor. And then there are more extreme programs where you really have one-on-one interaction with tutors, and you can always also buy hours. If you find that you're having a real problem, you can buy hours to tutor with almost every service. Another critical thing about starting test prep early is you start with a diagnostic test, and that will really help you understand and feel whether the ACT or the SAT is a better test for you. They're diagnostic, they're not set in stone, but they really give you an idea. And not only score-wise, but emotionally, you'll feel what's better for you. So start your test prep. Don't let that brain quiet down. You have to keep it moving. You have to keep it active. And test prep's a great way to get ready to go back to school at the end of summer. Activity number 6, college visits. These can be very complicated, and we have a checklist in our resources. that really, one of our Princeton Review lists that really shows you point by point what you need to do on a college visit. So I'm just going to hit a couple of points. The first way you can start college visits is right now. Most, probably all of you live within an hour or two of at least one or two colleges or universities. You may not be interested in them. However, it's a great Saturday, potentially Sunday trip right now, depending on whether they have tours scheduled, to go to a university, again, whether or not it's for you, and to see what an info session where you sit down and listen to admissions for an hour, talk about the school, and then a tour where they take you to everything from a dorm room to the cafeteria, which most kids love to see. They always emphasize the gym, but go to schools on the weekends. And many schools that you're interested in, maybe 3 hours. Well, that's a lot of driving, but you know what? It's a great return on that investment, and you don't have to spend the night. You go online, you schedule a tour, you show up. And this applies to all tours. I mean, all college visits. Do not skip the tour. A lot of students will go to a visit, they'll go to the info session, and then they'll bail on the tour. Don't do that, because you'll learn a lot on the tour. They're always led by students, and you get a lot of the inside information from the kids. You can ask them a lot of questions you wouldn't ask in an admissions presentation. Don't skip the tour. Summer, a lot of students think, oh, campuses are empty, why would I go to see a college over the summer? A, you have time. B, colleges have activities, tours scheduled typically twice a day, every day of the week, including Sundays. They know families are out there touring the country and seeing colleges. And it's a great time to set up a road trip. It can be a family road trip. I did it with my kids. Don't forget younger siblings. My daughter was interested in foreign relations. My son wanted to be an engineer. Guess what? We took him to every foreign relations school in the country. Well, not everyone in the country, but everyone that his sister was interested in. He didn't want to do foreign relations, but again, he saw a lot of schools, and there was actually a lot of crossover that, some of them were great engineering schools, but he learned the process of going on the visits. So when it was his turn, there was nothing new to him in terms of the actual process. Again, use a checklist. I can tell you I visit a lot of schools, and I do the same thing that you'll do. At some point, they blur. They become one big school to me. I can't differentiate one from the other. I take notes. I use my iPhone a lot, and I actually will use my iPhone sometimes to record info sessions. Another wonderful way for those of you who cannot afford college visits, because they can be pretty costly. Although I have to say, I love Homewood Suites and I love Comfort Inns because not only are they inexpensive, but they give you breakfast. So that's a great way to go. But YouTube, a very, very new resource. Many colleges have their info sessions recorded. Make sure you check the date. If it's an info session from 2014, no. You need new info sessions. And they also provide tours online. They also provide, shockingly, answers to essay questions. I can tell you NYU has an essay question, why NYU? Well, it's kind of a boring and typical essay question. Sorry, NYU. There is a YouTube broadcast, why NYU? And it has student after student saying why they want to go there. Use YouTube if you can't afford to visit a college. If it's one of a few or all of them, use YouTube as a great opportunity to see the school. Also go on the school's websites. Many of them have a lot of resources online. Summer activity number 7, use your imagination. This relates a little to what I talked about in terms of jobs. You can get a group together to start a summer art project in an area of the city that is a little run down and that needs some beautification. It means, yes, you have to do some fundraising. Great, great experience. You do what you love, and I think it's really important, again, I've probably said this 5 times, you work with friends, so it becomes fun. It's not this drag and drudgery. Other students, you can get together and I think I may have mentioned create a band. You may be terrible, but it's still something that shows that you can work with a group. Critical. I have to tell you that the way that colleges have gone within the last 5 years is almost every project involves collaboration. What used to be considered cheating when you worked with other kids is now critical. You collaborate on projects. If you do not know how to be a team player and teamwork is not shown on your resume, colleges will really be hesitant and say, why isn't this student working with other kids? So using your imagination, getting together with friends, creating a trash pickup area in a local park, but don't do it one day. Do it every weekend. You know, meet at 10 a.m. or no, you want to sleep in. Meet at noon every Sunday. Clean up the playground. Clean up the park. Make sure you don't get in trouble with any local custodians, but explain what you're doing. So be creative. There's no limit as to what you can do. So that's another fun summer activity. So with all of this, I pose one question to you. What are you going to do this summer? I hope you now all have an idea or a number of ideas. What you're not going to do is sit on the sofa and play video games or watch TV or just hang out with your friends. Of course you need to have fun, so some of that's fine, but I can't stress enough how critical activities are with universities on your college applications and for your personal growth and enrichment. I don't want to just stress college. I want you to know how much you will grow personally when you start doing things over the summer that you don't have time to do during school. This is a resource page. It is excellent. It gives you a lot of opportunities to find summer programs all over the country based on your interest. One of those that I love is further down on the bottom, volunteermatch.org. Very difficult to find volunteer jobs. That is great. Again, you put in your area. The fewer things you put in your filter, the more volunteer jobs will come up. But you put in your age, which is critical, because a lot of volunteer programs have age limitations. But a great, great resource. The classes that I talked about are there, edX, Coursera. Princeton Review at the bottom, college advice for college visits. It's an actual checklist and sort of layout of what you should do on college visits. So please print this resource, use it. It's great. It's taken me a long time to put together, not as in, you know, look at me taking so much time. I'm saying I'm sharing my knowledge and wisdom with you in this list. So I'm going to turn this over to Anna, who started our introduction, to talk about our program.
Thank you, Julia. My goodness, what a whole variety of great ideas for you guys to work on this summer to help make your college application the best one it can be. If you don't actually already realize, if you are interested in receiving some assistance, if you have questions, if you need help and guidance to put together your application plan, to help stay on deadlines, and even to help you review your acceptance packages and financial aid offers. Our college admissions counselors are here to help you and assist you. And so if you are interested in the potential of working with one of our advisors or just getting some more information about us and how we can help you, please go ahead and we'll go to the next slide so you can check out the email address of questions@review.com. Send us your interest. Let us know, and we will get one of our advisors to get in touch with you right away. You want to call us, 1-800-2REVIEW, or you can feel free to visit our website at www.princetonreview.com. So thank you again, Julia. Let us go right into the questions that we received for tonight's session. Um, if you are ready for that.
I am ready, Asha.
Excellent.
I think we received 150.
I know you've been talking a lot already for this hour, but let's work out some of these questions so that we can make sure that our folks leave with all of the information they need to make sure they're choosing right for their summer activity.
Or at least most stuff.
And most of them. So let's start with, if you could just go over again and maybe with some more examples, the idea of job shadowing and what that looks like really. We had someone ask that specifically.
Okay. And as I mentioned in that slide, job shadowing is a little murky. I can't give you an exact definition because it really depends on the company you work with. You may work with a nonprofit. It basically is a process in which you establish a connection with the company. It doesn't have to be a law firm or a investment banking firm or an engineering company. It may be a nonprofit that works for an area that you believe in. And it's not paid, it's casual, but typically it has set hours. And unlike internships, they frequently will not have a set schedule where you're doing this week. With job shadowing, you have to be really flexible and put your ego in a drawer, because sometimes you'll be bringing people coffee, sometimes you'll be answering phones. But no matter what you do, whether it's coffee or phone, it's increasing your communication skills, which is huge. Being able to speak to admissions counselors just off the cuff, you'll find that you can do this when you're communicating in job shadowing. So again, I'm sorry if I haven't really clarified it. It's just a much more casual way to ideally get involved in an area that you're interested in, but you have to take the initiative to do it. Not as many hours as an internship and not as structured as an internship. I hope that helps. There aren't many resources for job shadowing. You have to really work on the context and, hey, mom and dad, pull all the connections you have. This is a time to really use mom and dad's help.
That makes great sense. Thank you, Julia. Another question that we received was about college visits, and if you had any ideas or examples for students who may not have a budget to visit their first choice schools, what might be some good ideas to help them, with the idea of college visits?
Well, I mentioned YouTube earlier, but I want to circle back. First of all, before you even think about a visit, every college on their website will have a section that says, would you like us to send you information? Even if you have information, click yes, put your name in. Your name gets in their database, and you start to show what's called demonstrated interest in that college. It's like you tapping them on the shoulder and saying, hey, I'm Julia, I'm here. You then visit them at a college fair. There are many local college fairs, and we can add that resource. Visit the booth of the school of your interest at a college fair. They're staffed by admissions people. Go up, introduce yourself. Sometimes you have to wait in lines. There are huge lines of kids who want to, speak with certain colleges, typically Harvard and Stanford, but there are a lot of other great colleges in our country. So go to an admissions fair or a college fair, introduce yourself, get the person's card, write them a thank you note in an email saying, hey, it was great to meet you. And this is not necessarily a college visit as much as, again, tapping them on the shoulder, doing what's called demonstrated interest, and making contact with them. The college website, of course, has a lot of information, and there are more and more and more videos now on college websites from students in every department. Don't just stay on the homepage. Dig into the department you're interested in. There will be a video of a student in that department. There will also be very often college tours that are, well, they're not interactive, but they take you through the whole school. YouTube, as I mentioned, great way to go. Just check the date of the production, And there is a new website, and I'm sorry I can't tell you the exact name, but it's something called, I think, virtualcollegevisits.com, something along those lines. And it's a small startup company that has gone from college to college to college. They have not obviously hit every college in the country, but they take you on a tour. So you can see it. I think the YouTube version or the website version of the info session is great, but their tours are actually pretty well done, and you don't really get tired of hearing the people talk, like you're probably tired of me by now. So that's a way to do it. Next.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Julia, can you talk a little bit to the point of whether or not research projects are viewed positively by admissions officers?
Absolutely. There are a number of types of research projects, and when I worked at MIT, I can tell you that I was really blown away by the research that students did. Now, you are not all applying to MIT, and you do not need to do that caliber, or I should say quantity of research. I think some kids started doing research before they were born. But yes, research now is a very broad definition. It can mean getting involved in a science fair, okay, because you have to research to do that science project. It can mean writing a research paper on your own over the summer in something that you're interested in. And again, being a self-starter. You can also, a good thing if you do a research paper, first of all, make sure you have it edited. It has to be edited. You cannot submit a paper with typos, even though you're not submitting this to a professor or, a teacher. You can connect it to your application with a link. So I know at MIT we said if you have done any independent research, please attach it to our application. Okay, we sometimes got 100-page papers. Guess what? We didn't read them, but we read part of them. So that type of research, individual, great. The earlier you start, great. Other research, as I mentioned earlier, going into a lab with a professor or a scientist and more of a job shadowing, you don't always get your hands actually on the research until you have potentially worked there. And this is something else. You can repeat the same activity over the course of the school year or over the course of the summer because it shows continuity and you already have a connection, but you shouldn't only do that. So research in a lab with a professor, typically at a university, or I have a student who's doing research in an ear clinic. Who would think? It's where they make hearing aids, but she's working with them and understanding about the ear, and it's a form of research. An easier way to get in, get your foot in the door for research. So traditional research, when you work in a lab at a university in an area that you're interested in, yes, fantastic if you can get the opportunity. If not, the other forms I've mentioned are fine, but also do not be afraid to visit or call the professor. Always call before you visit, but make those calls, be persistent, send emails, be very polite.
Excellent.
So there's your research.
Gosh, so much information. Thank you, Julia. Can you speak to, we had discussed getting internships and jobs, but the question is whether or not unpaid internships in a prospective career field would be more valuable than a traditional summer job, like we had mentioned in a fast food joint or retail, et cetera, et cetera. Could you speak to that point?
Yeah, I really don't think so. I think that having a job, not many students have summer jobs. They're hard work. It shows a lot of initiative. A student who may have the time, and I don't mean the luxury in a negative way, but the time where they don't need to earn money, or maybe it's their junior year and they think, I want to see what it's like to work in retail. I'm not going to graduate and become a barista, but it shows that it develops your people skills. People skills are critical. you're interviewing with admissions people or alumni, you need to know how to talk to everyone. You never know who's going to be across that table from you. So I would not say that one is better than the other. If you can mix the two, and maybe one summer you can split the time of, possibly getting an internship and working, great. But do not feel that you are any lower on the rung of applications if you've had a job. Schools love kids who work.
Thank you. Another question that we received tonight regarding the summer enrichment program that we started off with this evening. And the question is, they do have great summer programs. However, will going to such a program or camp affect my admission process or the chances of my admission?
I'm so glad you asked that because I forgot to mention it. So I was actually going to supplement that if you didn't, if it wasn't a question that came in. Absolutely not. If you take summer classes at Harvard, which a lot of students do, your chance of admissions at Harvard is not increased because you are one of A, many students who took those classes, B, students who had the opportunity where a lot of other students didn't, and C, I don't know what C is. So the answer is absolutely no. Absolutely not. It's great on it's great on your activity sheet because it shows, and it will be great on your transcript. You will get a separate transcript. Most schools offer college level credit. They don't typically go into your GPA, but you will have a separate transcript to send to schools when you apply.
Thank you. Okay, another question. Do colleges want to see more in-school activities or out-of-school activities? If you could speak to that point, or maybe it doesn't matter.
No, it's a good question because it's a discussion I have with students a lot. I have to say, this is something I frequently have with musicians. Musicians who take private lessons and who play in competitions all over the country, sometimes all over the world. And I'm not saying only musicians, but there are a number of activities that you do at home or you do in a group that has nothing to do with school. Maybe your church, maybe your synagogue. Those are really important. And while it's critical that you do those, and I'm sorry, you can't all be perfect and do every activity I've mentioned. There's only one of you. But the benefit of an in-school activity is that it shows you're involved in your school community. So I think you all, and I mean all, need to have at least one in-school activity and a real activity. Some of these activities, and I know it's not your fault, stop and start, and the presidents will, the self-proclaimed presidents will start the activity and then it will fall apart because they're not organized. Find an activity that's real, run for a leadership position, which is even better. Have a couple, but you don't have to have 10 activities. One or two really involved activities are great, but make sure they're legit. Not that you would be dishonest with this, but it could fall apart. You need to show that you're involved in giving back to your school community.
Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. Another question that I think we probably should answer is a student already has a job lined up for 8 to 10 weeks during the summer. Would you be able to advise whether or not that student should be doing more or other different activities, or would just that job suffice for the summertime?
First of all, congratulations, because to have an 8 to 10 week job over the summer is a huge accomplishment. I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, congratulations. That is awesome. The only other thing I may suggest is, as the school year draws near, is that you start doing some test prep, and sort of re-engage with the academic components of your life. And I mean, for all I know, your job is reading, but really starting test prep, and that's something you can do if you do it, especially online. You can work around your schedule. But no, your job is fantastic, and admissions loves those. And I hate to keep stressing admissions because this is all about personal enrichment as well. So a job is growth, a job is fantastic. My son worked at a yogurt shop one summer, and I was thrilled because I got huge quantities of yogurt at the end of the night when they cleaned the machines out. So I couldn't go and get a free yogurt, but you know, he ended up he went to a great school, and one of his summer activities was working at a yogurt shop. So there you go.
That's a great story, Julia. Thank you. How would schools do a summer activity that would differ from the student's major? Right, so in an example, maybe volunteering at a veterinarian's office, but I'm not actually interested in going into any sort of medical field. How would that be viewed on a student application?
Well, that kind of hits 2 points. It can be volunteering in terms of looking at it as a community service. And again, circling back to showing initiative, you took the initiative to find that position. There's more than just your major. And I've probably said this 5 times. It's people skills. It's learning how to get along with strangers. It's being able to stop what you're doing and go do something else. It's also potentially, my essay brain, a great idea for an essay. Your essay does not have to, and actually should not be, unless you're maybe applying as an engineer, about your potential major. Schools aren't really interested in that. They're interested in life experience. So the only area that I think it's important that you try and get summer positions that relate to your major would be engineering, potentially film, which would be self-motivated, you know, make your own documentaries. If you can get into a summer film program, great. But again, they're pretty costly. There aren't that many. And students who want to go into architecture, that's another very challenging major. So if you have the finances and the time to do, I know Carnegie Mellon offers some excellent summer programs. As I mentioned, Purdue, almost every major university offers extended programs in your area of interest. So yes, starting out on a small scale, maybe a week or 2 between freshman and junior year, and building it up if you find that you like that, and you know, just continue to grow that activity if you can.
Okay.
So, and by the way, my son who worked at the yogurt shop graduated with a degree in engineering.
Fabulous. Thank you. Okay, another question. I think we probably only have time for 1 or 2 more. So this is about coming from a homeschooled student. And so they're saying that because they are homeschooled, their schedule is obviously not the same as a typical public school student, and they don't actually have a lot of extracurriculars that they participate in. However, they do volunteer approximately 200 hours a year. Can you give us some advice on whether or not that will be enough to make that student stand out on their college application?
Well, first of all, I want to say I've worked with a number of homeschooled students, and there are many different permutations of homeschool. That 200 or those 200 hours are really community service, and even though community service, as I've mentioned, is critical, you really need to make an effort to get out there and do other things. I know a lot of homeschooled kids create groups of other homeschooled students in their area. I know this has really started with young kids who are, you know, toddlers, first grade, and they have play groups. Well, you can create your own teenage play group. I had one kid who started a basketball team, and they were, you know, they played within the local league, or I think there was even a homeschooled league. So look into those opportunities, and I think the answer is unfortunately, you don't want to hear this, but no, the 200 hours of community service work or volunteer work is not sufficient because, again, it's solitary. It's a challenge with being homeschooled. You need to show schools that you know how to interact with other people. You're homeschooled for many different reasons, but you have to get out in the world.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, and
You're
one
welcome.
last question for this evening. Let's talk about the differences between participating in an internship and or taking summer courses at a university, and whether or not one over the other, if one or the other is more beneficial for someone's college application.
Depending on the age of the student. I think a rising senior, which would be between junior and senior year, I would probably vote for the internship. I think for a sophomore going into junior year, you know, the classes would be fine. The internship would probably be more difficult to find. So I don't think there's any one set answer. I think that my main idea would be to make sure, if you have the opportunity to do both, which is great, that you mix them up. That you don't do an internship every summer, or you don't take college classes every summer. I actually would circle back and say taking college classes every summer would probably be less interesting and less attractive on your resume, and less interesting for you, than mixing it up with some internships and maybe do one summer of classes.
Awesome. Julia, thank you so much. That is it for our Q&A session this evening. Again, I just want to say thank you to everyone attending. Thank you, Julia, for sharing all of your expertise and advice. Super helpful. I'm sure a lot of folks are going to be able to go forth and plan their summer activities more wisely. And for those of you that are interested in possibly working with a Princeton Review college admission counselor, please go ahead and feel free to email us your interest, and we'll make sure that have one of our advisors get right back in touch with you.
Me.
So thank you again for joining us. We hope that we were able to answer all of your questions and give you some really great ideas for your summer activities planning. And we hope that you will join us again soon in the future for other webinars. Thank you again, and have a great night.
Thanks so much. Good night.